A while back, I did a video called Perfect Histograms in 60 Seconds, wherein I outlined a simple method to use PixInsight's histogram transformation tool to quickly develop good, workable histograms that could be applied later in processing. The methodology, I think, could easily be applied to any histogram stretching tool such as that found in Serial. And it's especially useful for those persons who prefer to keep a hands-on approach, such as myself, and avoid the use of scripts. I don't know about you, but I frequently become frustrated with scripts, mainly because PixInsight updates and marches on, and sometimes script makers get tired of making a script or keeping up with updates, so they quit making them, and then the script you relied on stops working. And these are good reasons for which I do not want to be reliant on scripts. And to be honest, I have found that I tend to prefer my own approaches to doing things. When you use scripts, you're simply applying somebody else's approach to doing your astrophotography. And I prefer my astrophotography to be mine. Not that the scripts are bad, I just want it to be mine. However, my methods are always evolving. I'm always experimenting and learning new techniques, and technology changes. Some things become more effective, others less. And while I still use the perfect histogram method, it has evolved a bit over the last year. The changes are small, but they make a meaningful improvement. So today, I'm going to walk you through Perfect Histograms in 60 Seconds Evolved. So what you see on the screen before you is a new project I've started. This is the little nebula IC 5146, a reflection/emission nebula, not too far from the much larger, more well-known North America nebula. Though in comparison, it really is quite small. However, as you can see, it's a visually interesting and colorful region, filled with a great deal of gases. In fact, I've muted the brightness of the gases surrounding the nebula to help contrast the image a little bit. Some astrophotographers prefer to greatly lift the low side of their histogram and try to show everything captured. But I have a long history in photography and some formal training, and it gives me the strong impulse to take steps to really emphasize the subject. Anyway, here's the image early on in processing. I've only done the basics in PixInsight so far. I've stacked the L, R, G, and B channels, run the blur exterminator in correct and standard mode, star-aligned the R, G, and B channels, done a statistical analysis of the data on the R, G, and B channels, and then run linear fit on the R, G, and B channels before combining them with the channel combination tool. We'll start by applying the Perfect Histograms in 60 Seconds Evolved method to the RGB information. To speed things up, I already ran the star removal tool and then undid it. Now I'll just redo it and you can see the stars are gone. I'm going to grab the image name tab and drag it into the namespace in the histogram tool so the histogram is working on that information. Then, by hitting Ctrl F12, I'll remove the screen transfer function's temporary screen transfer from the image, returning it to all black. Then I'm going to open up a preview window. I really don't know why PixInsight does things this way. Why do we need a preview window to work on? But I'm going to open up a preview window so that we can see the changes that are being made as they're being made. And then I'm going to drag the middle icon to just right to the light curve. This will establish a little bit of brightness, allowing us to begin to see the image. Then I'm going to go to the magnification boxes above the histogram, place the mouse cursor over the left box, which controls the horizontal magnification, and zoom in so that I can see what I'm working on a bit better. I'll then go all the way to the left icon, which establishes the black point, and drag it right up to the left of the light curve. And then one more quick adjustment of the middle icon, getting it just to the edge of the light curve before zooming in for the fine work. Now, with that middle icon in place, we can zoom in and make the fine adjustments. I'm going to zoom way in to the maximum zoom that the histogram is capable of, 999 on the horizontal scale. In the scroll box to the right of the horizontal zoom is the vertical zoom. I'm going to scroll up to 20, and then on the histogram, drag the view slider all the way down so that we can see the base of the light curve and make those fine adjustments. Now, I'm going to drag the leftmost icon, which establishes the black point, to where the curve radiating off it intersects the innermost color channel, in this case red, halfway between the bottom and the first bar. Then I'm going to grab the middle icon and drag it to the innermost channel on the inside of the light curve, in this case green, until an imaginary vertical line radiating off the points of the middle icon would intersect with the innermost channel where it crosses the first bar over the base. You can move the mouse into the histogram and it will transform into a horizontal and vertical line, and place the vertical line right at the center of the triangle to make sure that you've placed the triangle at the right point. And once that's done, you now have a perfect quick histogram evolved. Now I'll apply my evolve stretch to the image and then denoise it, and then we'll compare it to the version of the image where the screen transfer function stretch has been applied. And so that we are comparing apples to apples, that image has also been denoised. At first glance, the version made with the screen transfer function's histogram stretch looks better. The blacks are deeper and the contrast is sharper. However, this is an undesirable trait for developing images. When you're developing images, you want to preserve your information, which is why raw images have that hazy low contrast look. So even though the screen transfer function looks better, it's not. There just is not quite as much information in it to work with later in developing. Notice in the evolved stretched image on the left, how the pale gases are more visible in the dark space and over the nebula itself than they are in the screen transfer function stretched image on the right. Likewise, the dark veins within the nebula are less dark within the evolved stretch than they are within the screen transfer function stretch. In final developing, the information from those dark regions will also be more available from the evolve stretch than they are from the screen transfer function stretch. Snappy contrast might look good at first glance, but it's never a good thing early on in developing. Alright, it's time to go ahead and apply the evolved histogram stretching method to the luminance channel. With luminance, it's remarkably simple because we're only working with one image. I'll start off by using the star exterminator to remove the stars. That leaves us with a decent looking image with lots of information in it. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Ctrl F12 and remove the image's screen transfer function. Now I'll open up the histogram transformation tool, drag the image tab into the namespace of the histogram tool so that we are working with that image's information, reset the tool and make sure that the zoom boxes are both at 1, and then open a preview window. As before, I'll drag the middle icon over just to the right of the light curve. This creates an initial, barely visible stretch. Then I'll move the mouse cursor up to the horizontal zoom in window and scroll over it so that I have a little space to work with on both sides of the light curve. Then I'll move the leftmost icon just to the left of the light curve, establishing its black point. And then a quick adjustment of the middle icon just to the right of the light curve. Now I can zoom in even more, and I'm going to zoom in all the way to 999 horizontally and 20 vertically. Now, just as before, I'm going to move the leftmost icon into the leftmost side of the light curve so that the line radiating off of it intersects that light curve about halfway between the baseline and the first bar. Then I'm going to grab the middle icon and drag it left to within the light curve until the point of the triangle of the middle icon is intersecting where the right side of the light curve crosses the first bar. And when that's done, all there is to do is to apply the histogram to the actual image. Once this is done, I export the RGB and L channel along with the star plates as lossless TIFFs to then edit to an Infinity photo. The complete but low contrast stretches allowed by the evolved method leave all the information within the image, which can then be edited to produce this. This final image is the result of imaging IC5146 for 3 nights, and after stacking, all the information was stretched using the evolved method. And you may find it interesting to know that most of this information was shot directly under a full supermoon. And if you're wondering how this information was produced under all that moonlight, well, for now I'll just say that I don't think astrophotographers are going to have to stop due to the moon anymore. But that's a topic for the next video. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any observations, comments, or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you don't mind, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you to everybody who has, and looking forward to the next video. Now, get out there and shoot that marvelous sky.